Thanks a lot for the nice introduction. I know there are people here in the room, but there are also people dialing in, so I will also speak to them. So don't feel that I'm not personally to you speaking when I look in this direction. So first of all, thank you for the invitation and for the opportunity. And when with my colleague Elisabeth van Dam, when we discussed how do we address this, I was thinking people will dial in that are interested and they may ask the question, could the pharmaceutical industry be a platform for me I could work as a medical doctor? Or if I, at one point in my career, want to do something different, could the pharmaceutical industry be an option for me? And this is what I try to answer with this presentation. And I was thinking first to start with my personal history. And I would tell you, I was working as a pediatrician for about 15 years. I started to study medicine in Munich, then I moved to pediatric cardiology, then I moved to pediatric hematology, oncology, then I worked many years as a neonatologist, so I really know the clinical pediatric field. And if you had asked me at this time, this was when I was working, we built here an oncological day hospital in the university in Erlangen. When you asked me at this time, do you think about going to the pharmaceutical industry? I would have said, are you kidding me? And I would never do this. I'm here treating patients. I'm not working on pharmaceuticals. And then, you know, after many years in my role, successful role, I was heading a department, a pediatric department, and a colleague called me and she said, Volker, we studied together in the university. By the way, I'm working for GSK and they're looking for a pediatrician in Germany for the pediatric vaccines portfolio. And I said, yeah, but this is nothing for me. I'm always open to do new challenges and new things, but this is nothing for me. I'm not working in the industry. And then she said, don't rethink this. Have a look, and maybe you just have an interview and to understand what does it mean. And then, to be honest, I went there, I met a lot of people, and I felt this can be a very interesting alternative. And I just took the risk, and I did not regret it so far to get this new perspective. And you know, when she asked me about, of course, when you then have an interview, you look, what is this company you are talking about? And then I looked it up, it was GSK, and then I saw how big and how much value the company developed. If you look at the pharmaceutical field, this was when I knew GSK products, for example, against HIV. I knew products against virostatics, Sovirax, you know, now it's very generic. But in the past, it was the breakthrough. When I was working in oncology, this was what saved life for our children when they were exposed to varicella. So I was then impressed, and of course the whole vaccine portfolio, which was very important as a pediatrician because vaccination is a key topic. And there I saw what kind of vaccines came from GSK. And then this is not a promotion about GSK, I'm just sharing my feelings. And then another point was the consumer healthcare. Of course, I was not interested in toothpaste or but it was also showing me the broad portfolio. So I thought I will go there. And as I told you, I did not regret at all. What I learned was amazing, especially in areas where I did not work before as a physician. The whole R&D development from early product. When you're working medical affairs, and maybe I did not say this, I was working in medical affairs. This is you represent the medical society somehow within the company, but also you represent the company outside to the medical community. And therefore, all these activities which I learned, which I was not really involved before, and where I had contact with colleagues, especially when you then see after the end phase development and also post-licensure, when vaccines, and I was only working on vaccines so far, are on the market, when they are used, when you see the impact of vaccines. This was something I would never have learned when I was working as a medical doctor. I really liked the work, but the scope and the different fields were much broader in my new role there. And if you know, especially for the vaccines portfolio, vaccine portfolio, it was, if you look at the number of vaccines I could learn from pediatric vaccines, you see all the, and I don't know how much well you are trained, and we had a challenge today where we looked at vaccination and where we also discussed and where we saw that students are not so much, vaccination, it's not a big topic in your studies. So, but it's a big topic in the world, and it's a big way to prevent disease and to save lives across the world. And if you see the pediatric vaccines and you know all these diseases and you may not even have seen them any longer, today it may be difficult for you to see a case of measles because it's nearly eradicated via vaccines. But you would never, in Europe, you would never see a case of polio because it's gone. And this is due to vaccines. So this, of course, you see the impressive role of vaccines also in adults and adolescents, which are mostly spreading disease. We know that adults and adolescents play, for example, a key role in spreading meningococcal disease. And when you vaccinate those, which is a different concept, then you prevent them from spreading it. So you don't vaccinate those that are mostly severe ill, but you vaccinate them to prevent the disease. So this to prevent the transmission to others. So this is a big topic. And the future, if you ask me, how do you think will the future of vaccinology and vaccination prevention look like? I'm convinced that this will be the elderly. Because we learn more, we become older and older. The only alternative is to die early, but this is what nobody wants. So we become older and older, our immune system becomes older, and we more and more understand the importance of the immune system for the elderly and to support it with vaccines. So this will be the future. So this is an overview of a GSK vaccine portfolio, and the focus will shift also to the older adults for vaccination. When you look, let's go back to Belgium. When you look at the Belgium vaccine calendar, then you won't see a recommendation that is not somehow linked also to a vaccine that GSK also produces. This does not mean that this vaccine is used, because there are also other vaccines, of course, and this is good because there need to be more vaccines. The more vaccines we have, the better. Sometimes I'm invited from other countries to give presentations on the vaccine portfolio. My most important message is not use GSK vaccine. My most important message is use vaccines, prevent disease, because this is the most important thing. And here you can see in the Belgium calendar, this is nearly every recommendation can be also covered by these vaccines. So when I was thinking, I need to watch the time, when I was thinking how to bring this to you, what does it mean for a medical doctor to work at GSK? I just put what came into my mind, and maybe I forgot some things. I put a brainstorming. So I told you medical affairs. This is one piece, and I put just areas where internal and external touch points, medical doctors, GSK colleagues work together. Medical affairs, I told you. This is where you advise as a physician, as a medical person, all different departments, which is very, very interesting, because you have to change how you look at things constantly. When you think about safety of vaccines, you have to be very strict. You have to, when you think about the safety of vaccines, you have to be very strict, because you cannot compromise anything. It's a disaster for every company if safety signals are not detected and not understood. So you have to be different when you talk with your commercial colleagues. When they say, do you think we can say this about our product? You say, yes, I think the science really supports this. You have a different framework. Or when you talk to regulatory authorities, you have to make sure that your data are absolutely strong and convincing. So you have to change all the time how you are thinking. This is something you need to be able when you work in medical affairs. Or you have to go to MedCup and give a presentation, which is the hardest thing, of course. And so research and development, I hope my microphone is not muted. Research and development, this is what I showed you, and there is from early development via each stage of development, there are roles for medical affairs in the clinical area. And then you have, especially when the product or when the vaccine is on the market, then you have a lot of questions, and this will be addressed for example, in the medical information, which is also a field of GSK. So you may know that when I was working as a physician and I had a question to a medication or a vaccine, I would never call the company because I thought the expertise is not in the company. The expertise is in the papers, the expertise is in textbooks, but it's not true. The expertise is in the company. And if I had known this, I just didn't know it, that I could call a medical information department and I could ask them, can I use this vaccine or this drug in this patient? They would give me all the information. They would have told me about the recommendations other countries without any intent of promotion, everything clearly scientifically based, and I would have got very valid information, which I just didn't know that this exists. So that's an area of interface. Safety pharmacovigilance, I told you. There are a lot of medical doctors working in safety, as safety physicians. It's very important. They get all the side effects are going to the company reports it all to the authorities, but the company looks into this. Is this something severe? Is this linked to the drug? And you don't want, as a company, not to pick it up if something is behind it, because you will never be able to neglect or to play down. This will always come back. You need to make sure that you don't miss anything here and that you understand the safety of all your products. Then value evidence. This is a department where also a lot of medical doctors are working, where you look into what, I talk mainly from vaccines, of course, well, because this is my field and my expertise. What is the value of the vaccine programs? What is the burden of disease? What is really happening in real life? How can we measure this? How can we show this when a vaccine program is implemented and the disease goes down? Because today it's not enough to say the vaccine protects an individual. Today you really want to show your impact on public health and your impact on a whole population. Then we have MSL. If you are very communicative, there are medical doctors working at medical science liaison people. I don't know, you may not know who this is. You may, in your future career, you may meet some of those. These are experts from the company that do presentations, give information to physicians. They build a network between the medical doctor in the hospital and in the private office and the science from the company. This can be a very interesting topic for people who really like to work together with their old colleagues if you move to industry as a medical doctor, or when you are a medical doctor, you know that you can really get information also from this group. There are some, this is not very frequently, but I even know medical doctors that work as sales reps. They say, I really have fun in going to other colleagues and to share our materials and to give information, promotional information to show the value of our products. This is not, I know a few of them. Another point are investigator-sponsored studies, and this is twofold. You could, as a medical doctor, when you work in an academy, you could say, I have a very interesting research question. I want to do this. And then you ask your university, and your university may say, oh, but we don't have resources and we cannot really do it. And then you may think, maybe I get support from industry. And if this is a research where we, for example, when I again speak from vaccines, when we think this is a very important question of a vaccine impact study or efficacy or vaccine role in an environment, in a public health context, then you can get support there. So there is a program, investigator-sponsored studies. So you are still the sponsor, the owner of the study, but you get financial support or vaccine support from the company. Advisory boards, very interesting topic. We need advisory boards because we need advice from you guys treating patients every day. And we need to understand what you know, because when we develop a vaccine or a product, we need to understand how would this fit into the disease, how would this address the need in the patient. And when we do advisory boards, we always make us very clear, do we have the expertise internally or do we need to go outside? And then we look for top experts, and you may in the future be one of those, so don't be shy if you are addressed, whether you can give us advice. We are organizing advisory boards. As a medical doctor in the industry, I'm triggering it. As a medical doctor outside, you may be part of this to have a discussion and to learn from each other. Then medical information I mentioned, regulatory. A lot of medical colleagues working in regulatory. There you talk with authorities. There you talk about the license of vaccines. There you talk about what kind of data did you generate. Is this all fine? Is this okay to get the license of the vaccine? Market access is linked a little bit to value evidence. This is important. What data do I need? What do I need in order to show the impact, the value of vaccine and prevention? This is an important piece of working in the industry, because as a global company, of course, you are looking at very different countries. You are not localized at one country. You need to understand what is the need, what is the need if a vaccine is used in China, or when it is used in the US, when it is used in Europe, or when it is used in the US. It's very different authorities. You have to have very different questions to answer. Okay, so then you are back in medical affairs, and which are touching all these points somehow. And there I think these are, when I did this brainstorming, these are the topics, or these are the areas where I could think you may get a little bit of feeling what would it be to work as a medical doctor in a pharmaceutical company in GSK, coming from the whole development, but also when the products are on the market, when the vaccine is there, or when the drugs are there, to answer the question, to make sure that it's used in the right way, and to make sure that we understand the safety and we understand also the impact and the value of the product. Then I know, when I talk to then I finally took the decision to go from as a physician to the pharmaceutical industry. My colleagues, they were not happy at all. They said, "What? You are now going to the industry? You want to earn money. You want to, it's about the money. You go to the pharmaceutical industry." And then I really, and now I can answer this. I can answer this because I know both areas. So at this time, it was not at all the money, because I got about the same money I got as a physician. If I include my night shifts, if I include my private patients I could treat. So it was not the money, the incentive. It was really doing something different and having a strong impact. Nevertheless, it is extremely important. And this is, I think, for me, from this presentation so far, for me, it's the most important thing. Because it is extremely important that we understand that this collaboration needs to be based on trust, on transparency, that there is no influence. Because of course, if I invite you for an advisory board, or if I ask you to give a presentation, you tell me, I need to prepare. This is my expertise. I need to travel. I need to prepare. This is time. I need to get reimbursed for my work. And of course, then there is transfer of money, and then we need to make sure that everything that is perceived that this is influencing physicians is we rule this out. Because as soon as it's for your problem, because you will say, people will say, but he's paid by the pharmaceutical industry. And for us a problem, the pharmaceutical industry is going to pay those guys that they speak good things about their products. So that's a very important thing, and there are several mechanisms in place. There is a code for pharma industry, there is the Belgian MDON, which define how we work together, and there is and I need to say this, the most stringent code is our own GSK code. Because when I sometimes, I give you a personal example, I want to talk to an expert, which may be also in a government advisory committee. And if I want to talk to this person, of course, I need to have a contract with him. And then I really need to show that I need this advice. I really need to show why I cannot get this advice from somebody else that may not be in a recommendation board. And I need to show that there is no even perception that influence is happening. So therefore, it is extremely important and extremely sensitive. And some colleagues of you, when we work with them together, they even tell us, you know, to work with GSK is so difficult because you have so long contracts. We have to agree that there's no conflict of interest. You have to show this. So that's for us very important, because if you lose the trust and if you have a perception that you are influencing and that this is why you are doing it, then future collaboration will be very, very difficult. And this protects not only us, this protects also you, because then there is very clear, very transparent that there is a collaboration. So I have another 5 minutes, and I think I will use this to summarize. For you, working in the pharmaceutical industry can be a very interesting and very nice challenge. And this can be on the very beginning of your career. I have colleagues, they moved from when they are done with the university to the pharmaceutical industry, and they like it very much. It can be in between, and it can be also at the end of your career when you have already a huge experience, and then we say, oh, I will bring this huge experience to now in the industry, and I want to try this. My recommendation is, this is at least my feeling, I think at least some years in the clinical field to understand how it is in a hospital, how to get your expertise in treating patients would be of value. If you are too early, you may lose some value that you can bring if you understand the healthcare system in your country. But in principle, you could even all the time think about the role you work there. And of course, you may think, yeah, but he touched a lot of points, but I cannot really imagine what it is. That's the problem, because not a problem, that's the problem and the opportunity at the same time, because you have a lot of very different opportunity. You can just work on clinical trials. You say, I love to develop clinical trials and I want to really scientifically in detail want to understand what a drug or a vaccine is doing. Or you say, I want to go in early development. I want to really see the first even preclinical effect of molecules. And I'm a researcher and I want to do this. And in the university, it's very difficult for me. And I think in pharmaceutical industry, I have more opportunities. But you could also go into the medical affairs area as me, mostly dealing with vaccines that are used, that are on the market. How can we show the impact? How can we show to other countries? How can we show that the success of a meningococcal program in the UK would be also a success in the US? How can we where would you, if you go to other countries that have not implemented vaccination programs, which patient group should you vaccinate to get the most impact? And we talked about the adolescents, for example, and the elderly at one point. So very different questions. Or you go for a more extrovert MSL role where you give presentations, where you like to share information to your former colleagues or your colleagues. So, and even I talked today with a colleague from Belgium. She told me she's still, no, from Paris, I think. She's still doing practice. So she's working for GSK, but at the same time, she also treats patients, which is, if you can manage, optimal, because you have both sides. Then, of course, you always have to take care of this, what I mentioned, this conflict of interest cannot be perceived as, you know, but she works for GSK and she only prescribes the drugs from GSK. So, and then the last point, but the most important point, and I have no problem to say this for, at least for my company, because this is definitely a priority, transparency, no hidden agenda, no hidden transfer of value, respect for each other in both sides, integrity, and especially patient focus, because this is the end customer. It's about the patient, are essential for a collaboration between the pharmaceutical industry and HCPs. And I know it's still difficult and people look with suspicious, but of course, if we follow these rules, this can be a very successful and very productive collaboration, which finally helps the patient, which is in interest, of course, of both parties. So I hope, 25 minutes is not long, and I can only touch things, but maybe you get the flavor a little bit what it could be, and at one point you say, oh, now I do something different like I did, and you do something different and you just dare it or you think about it, but maybe I could give you an overview. And we have also a booth here with some colleagues from HR, and if you have further questions, you can definitely go there and ask. HR means human resources. These are all these acronyms I know that you don't know. Okay, so thanks a lot for listening, and also those that are online, and happy to answer any questions when you have them in the next time. So thanks a lot.